Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmys.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee. Along in the corner there is Cody Cook, and alongside of me here is Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Odos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show. Our sixth season.
Yes,
it's the beginning.
It's
what was it?
my
Last
first.
week is our first week. This week is our second week, and we're getting right into the off season. And there's a lot to talk about. If you're new to the show, if this is your first time ever hearing of us, well, welcome aboard. Become a member, become an Odo. You can do that real simple. Head over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. You can also follow us on Facebook as well. But the more the merrier. Bring your friends, family members, everybody you can think of that loves to talk football.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been pretty nutty this offseason. A lot of different signings here. People moving and shaking. The news going out about, Aaron Rodgers still hanging, looming and all that stuff. But we got some few topics we want to talk about here. And some stuff came out early this week on Tuesday about Lamar Jackson. Now, somebody representing him had come out and said, hey, he's not completely sold on just staying with the Baltimore Ravens. He's looking elsewhere possibly. And, he's open to negotiations. Let's talk and stuff. And Now today there ended up being a memo released by the NFL saying, nah, I don't think so. You can't be doing this. And they actually named a said person, and his name is Ken Francis. They said in the memo that Ken
Not
Francis,
believable.
who appears to be
Fake news.
Jackson's representative, you're not permitted to speak to him because he's not a member of the NFLPA and he's not certified,
Fake
by them.
news.
So it's just funny that this comes out here like this, and the fact that it's sprinkled out here, and Lamar Jackson said, yeah, I don't even know what this is. This is lying, blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah.
But it sparks people's interest again too, because everybody's got to get on that thing and say, oh wait, maybe he can come to my team. What do we got? Who where would he fit? What's the best spot here? People are instantly thinking, teams that might need a quarterback right now. Panthers have been moving and shaking, maybe, and the Falcons, but. Lamar Jackson, again, a lot of people not really talking about him so much, so I think that's what maybe some of this is, just trying to spark interest, because he's silently one of those guys who's kind of, been at a standstill with this negotiation here on this contract with the Baltimore Ravens and not getting a long-term deal done here. And he's even threatened it at one point, maybe I'll sit out or whatever, So this is more stuff that's drama that's thrown onto this whole situation. What do you think about this so far here, Joe?
There's really nothing to talk about. I mean, unless it's coming directly from Lamar, because he's his own agent and his mother is also with him. God help him. But that's it. That's it in a nutshell. So if you don't hear it from one of those two people, nothing is going on with Lamar. Mm-hmm. And I know everybody kind of wants this whole situation to be over with. I know there's Raven fans out there that are like, hey, let's just lock him up, keep him here in Baltimore. But I don't think it's that simple anymore, because we've already seen signs as of late last year where it's almost like he just doesn't feel like being in Baltimore anymore. Yeah. He doesn't want to be there anymore. And part of it could be because Greg Roman, the former offensive coordinator, has now moved on. And the offense is going to be a little different. There's going to be similarities with Todd Monken, who just recently got hired. But it's not going to be the same. And maybe that kind of, that stigma about Lamar Jackson is he's just a running quarterback that throws the ball once in a while. Maybe he himself views himself and says, hey, I can be so much more than that. I can be a prototypical starting quarterback in this league, and I have the ability to run if I need to use it. Yeah. So maybe he's almost, in a sense, wants to separate himself from this franchise, from the way this offense is run, and wants to turn the page and go somewhere else and try to reprove himself as a quarterback and only a quarterback. But as far as the whole Lamar Jackson front, there's no news to report. I'm sorry. It's boring. And it is what it is. Until something breaks, until discussions break open with Baltimore, maybe starting to renegotiate. But it sounds to me that Baltimore's taken the stance, and I know a lot of people have already kind of said this, but they've definitely taken a stance where, like, if you can't come down to X number, then we're not talking. There's no reason to waste our breath. This is as far up as we'll go. Maybe we can, come to an agreement close to there, but unless you're willing to come to that offer, come down to that offer, sorry, we're not. Go ahead. See how great it is out there in the offseason. Go ahead. Work out a trade. Work out a new contract somewhere else, cuz guess what? It ain't going to be what you're hoping it's going to be.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are in kind of a weird spot with it because we've seen, Lamar put out the report of they offered only 3 years, 133 fully guaranteed. So it shows they're offering these shorter contracts because Lamar's similar to when you don't want to give long-term contracts to running backs. With how much he runs, there's the potential for injuries year in and year out, and he's already showed last season the start of kinks in the armor, start of the potential injury plagues that could start to come up going forward. So I don't think this is going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Something cool to maybe look forward to. Look forward to in the future would maybe be, I could see him being a potential backup plan if that Jets-Rodgers trade falls through. You can quote me on that when it maybe happens, but for now, not much else to say.
Know-it-alls.
Yeah, and that would be interesting. Imagine after this whole drama that's being stretched out here with Aaron Rodgers and them stockpiling some picks here and getting that collateral up, and it doesn't go through here. Now all of a sudden, if Lamar Jackson is available here to be, and then now the Ravens could potentially get those draft picks and whatnot to try and move on.
But as far as that front goes, there's no way it falls through. There's just no way. The Jets and Green Bay are so deep into the conversations and everything, it's bound to get done. The Jets have already taken precautions and signing players that Rodgers wants there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's too far into the whole negotiating period to end or fall through.
Yeah.
And the fact that Lamar Jackson, if he was to, let's say, just for example, if Rodgers, something happened crazy, and they like, okay, well, now what do we do? Because there's no free agent quarterbacks out there that are available as starters.
Matty Ice.
Lamar Jackson, right? Well, the problem with Lamar Jackson is the Jets cannot afford him at all, not even come close. They can barely afford Aaron Rodgers right now. So for them to try to be in that mix and try to get Lamar, that just won't happen.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is because when he was when
Back
it was
to
being
Zach Wilson
brought out the fact about him in the negotiations and what he wanted. He wanted max deal, Deshaun Watson money, and he thought he had a better, especially with Watson played last year. It kind of like for him, he was like, in his defense, he's like, this is what he just got. And I think I performed better this year than he did or whatever. So this is what I think I get.
Not much of a defense.
I know, but that's what he's defending himself even too at this point. So, I mean, that's tough. You know what I mean? When he's trying to do this,
you can't.
He needs to learn some stuff from Laremy Tunsil, I think.
Okay.
Laremy Tunsil knows how to talk. Maybe he should hire him as his representative maybe too to get him a deal, right? It seems to work in that camp.
I mean, the thing about that is you're comparing yourself to a guy who hasn't played in basically 2 years and then gets thrown into the mix 16 weeks later. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
That's kind of insane. So I understand. And that's probably, that could have been some kind of a conversation, but then like, well, hold on, wait a second.
Yeah, because even
we understand you get injured, but he's been injured ever since he started. Like his rookie year was his healthiest year. And then every year after that, he's sustained one injury. He's had 5 injuries total in his career, but none of them have been significant, like an ACL tear or anything like that. They've been grade 2 sprains basically for 5 straight consecutive years. So for what Cody was talking about earlier, is like, oh, he's getting injured more, every single year. He's right. There's a track record there. But on the bright side of it, nothing's serious. Right. It's all just sprains that he just has to let heal, and then he comes back and he's fine. But he's 25 years old now. That's all well and good. Yeah. But when you start to get like closer to your 30s or 30 and beyond, it takes longer to recover, and two, those sprains turn into tears, turn into blown out knees. So maybe that's part of the process that Lamar is thinking about. You know what I mean? Maybe he's thinking about the future and saying, hey, well, if I stay in this kind of offense where they expect me to run the ball, a lot of running and then throwing the ball when we need to, I need to get out of this. Greg Roman left. What? I don't want to be here anymore. Like Todd Monken, who the hell's that?
Yeah.
You grabbed a guy, a guy from college, from Georgia, has an NFL experience, but still, to Lamar, he's like, dude, seriously? This guy is gonna be my offensive coordinator now,
right?
I don't feel comfortable with this. I think we need to figure something out.
And maybe that is why you're hearing more now that he's kind of come down from his number. More is still, like in the 200, lower around that range. But now the complaint has been years. He wants more years on his contract. Like Cody talked about, was that everything's been offered has been like a 3-year. I think he's looking for another a 5-year deal from somebody, or at least the Ravens. Yeah. But he showed, you're talking about the minor injury still. And you saw in this playoff run, the last time, even, it was, the season wasn't even over yet. So they were like frolicking into the playoffs easily. And he still didn't come back even for the playoffs, and just watched on the sidelines as his teammates are competing. Yeah. And there isn't something at you that says, even why not? You give it a rip, try, because this might even be one of our only shots. How many opportunities did people get to make it to the Super Bowl, let alone win? Tom Brady is one of the lucky ones that has been able to do that with the team, the way the organization has been run, but many others have just showed up and sniffed it since.
Yeah, and just think about, just playoffs. Just making it to the playoffs is an accomplishment. You know what I mean? So for Lamar to not maybe step up for Baltimore, especially when it became playoff time, and obviously we don't know, the details, the finer details. Maybe he was still hurt, but maybe he wasn't. You know what I mean? We're all guessing at this point. How hurt was he? Was he close to coming back and he just chose to sit out anyway? And hope maybe they get past the first round. Yeah, we're never going to really know that. But at the same point in time, we know is that he was injured. That's why he wasn't playing. So unfortunately, we're right back to the whole long-term, short-term contract deals. I think there's a reason why Baltimore offered him a short-term deal, is because they want an out at some point. Yeah. They don't want to invest. And here's the thing is, if Lamar's saying, I want guaranteed money, fully guaranteed contract, just like Deshaun Watson, not going to happen anymore. You know how much heat the Cleveland Browns got into with NFL owners? They got in so much heat that owners are like turning against Haslam, the owner of the Browns, and they're not going to do him any favors from now on. Yeah. They're like, listen, dude, buddy, you just screwed all of us over with this kind of a contract to a quarterback. Fully guaranteed money? No, that does not happen in this sport, because the sport itself, there's a short lifespan for any position that you're in. Like, obviously some are a little bit longer than others, but in the end of it all, like, that contract will never happen again. Deshaun Watson, that was the last time it's going to happen. It won't happen again. So for Lamar saying, I think I'm as good as Deshaun, I think I should get a fully guaranteed contract, it won't happen. And it doesn't even matter if it's with Baltimore or if he decides to work out something with another team. It's not going to be there. So you see right now, because the reason why we're having no news at all from Lamar and his camp is because he's stuck. He's not willing. He's not willing to realize that, hey, maybe I'm not going to get a fully guaranteed contract. Maybe I should think about my future and just take 3 to 4 years and not think 6 to 7, because that ship has sailed. And you've noticed in free agency that even with the free agents that are available now or in the beginning of the beginning of free agency, that a lot of players are just signing 1-year deals, are signing 2 to 3 year deals. That's it. There's nobody signing these 6-year deals anymore, these very long-term deals, because teams, I think, have gotten smarter to the point where, like, okay, well, if we're going to give you this much money, we're going to only do it for 3 years. We want you to prove to us that you're a good fit for our team, that you're going to excel with this contract for us and be productive. Because if not, 2 or 3 years later, we're good. Bye, see ya. We'll go get someone else that can do the job. So that's what you're starting to see now more in free agency than ever. Is you're seeing a lot of these short-term deals, and a lot of really good players are still available now, and really good players got signed to short-term deals.
Yeah. In regards to him not being willing to play through that injury, we saw in the playoffs, even just last season, with Mahomes getting almost like juiced up before the game so that he could play through his injuries, struggling, limping off the field and all that. And that's the guy that's getting the really long deal, the money he wants, and winning big games for his team. Lamar hasn't won those big games. He hasn't showed the passion to be, I'm the team guy. I'll go in and I'll fight no matter what the situation. I'll give it my best shot. But I think it was almost maybe more of a business move for him. Like, I don't want to go in and maybe hurt myself more. Or I don't want to showcase that I'm maybe not the best passer from the pocket or anything when I'm limited. Just something like that to think about. And we actually got our first, I can't talk tonight. First comment that came in from Paul Matty. Said, greetings from Playa Linda Beach, Florida.
What's going on, Paul? Welcome to the show. We also got Jordan, I guess, is watching. Brian Grimes is watching. We got some viewers out there. Wow. Go ahead, drop a comment down below. Let us know you're here. Yeah, throw any questions out, any opinions that you have about what we're talking about. Feel free to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget also to hit the like button, absolutely, too, on the video. Share, like the video.
Make sure you subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe, too, as well. But yeah, anybody on Facebook, too, as well. You can't subscribe, join our Facebook group. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting there we'll see what happens. But ultimately, it's going to come down to the time where he's got to sign the franchise tag or not. And then we'll see then and see where, if he puts his money where his mouth is.
There is a deadline for
situation. Yeah, there is a deadline. So, I mean, he's got to do it. So, talking about one guy also that might have ruined contracts for everybody and pissed off owners, stuff like that. Let's talk about the Zeke Elliott situation here quick. With Zeke, he reveals his top 3 destinations now, with it being the Jets, the Eagles, and the Bengals here. And like anybody really cares though, because but this is a guy who has ruined it now for some of these free agent running backs now trying to get signed to some teams. I've seen some of these guys out here just, again, like you said, even sign them out of these short-term deals here, trying to get whatever they can here while they can, because nobody's buying in on that whole thing. They're not investing in the running back situation. You see the New York Giants. Luckily, they did the deal and got it set up with Daniel Jones, so then they could just put the franchise tag on Saquon Barkley and then maybe negotiate and work out a team-friendly deal. But coming out right into free agency, it seemed like Saquon was not about that, and he was trying to get his money, and now you're going to see where that situation plays out.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is running backs, we already knew for years they haven't been making the big money anymore. Average money for a good running back or starting caliber running back is about $5 million on average is what they get paid a year. Obviously, incentives and all that kind of stuff, guaranteed money, that fluctuates the contract. But you think of Austin Eckler, too. Austin Eckler says, I'm making $6 million this year. It's my last year of my contract. I need to get paid more. What? You're not. Listen, Austin
he's the most
Eckler,
underpaid, like right?
Yeah, he's the most underpaid over everybody, right? But here's the thing: is you're a very versatile running back. You're a really good running back when healthy, because you're also a guy that hasn't been the healthiest, and now you want more money than $6 million, which is pretty much the average of what everyone's getting paid. I don't see it ever happening for him. I know that the Chargers have also said, like, okay, if you can find a trade, go for it. If you're unhappy with the contract right now, we'll work out a new deal in the future. But right now, no, we're not going to do that. Yeah. So you think of running backs like Zeke, and for him to say Eagles and Bengals, 2 out of the 3 we got right last week. We said those 2 teams, but the Jets we didn't see coming as maybe a landing spot. Especially you got the young kid there. I mean, you
got 3 good running backs.
It just doesn't make sense there for the Jets. But who knows what they're gonna do? They don't have a lot of money, so that's one thing where I think they might be out unless he's willing to take a 1-year prove it deal where it's like $2 million or $3 million. That's the only way
Like,
I don't think, and one other thing I wanted to say is that for Zeke, he's not ruining anything for running backs. I don't think he's ruining anything for running backs because running backs are signing anyway. Ernest Johnson is the most recent signing, signed for a 1 year, $5 million deal. That like, there's other running backs that, to be honest, might have a better upside than a Zeke. Yep. Zeke, we already know what he is. You know, he's a power back. You know, and
Power back who can block.
everybody was enamored with him when he first burst on the scene, you know, early in his career. But now they're like, hey, you know what? We could find other guys like Tony Pollard. Cowboys found Tony Pollard out of nowhere. You know what I mean? And now Zeke is expendable. So for Zeke to go to another team, I don't think he's going to cash in as much as he thinks he is.
Right.
I think any team that does take him, whether it will be the Eagles or the Bengals, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, sure, come help us out. But $4 million, 1 year deal. What do you think?
Yep. Yeah, and even the Cowboys here going with Ronald Jones now, you know, as the other type of back, rotation to be the opposite of Tony Pollard. That they're fine with that, you know what I mean, for production that they were getting out of Zeke Elliott before. And this list is kind of funny. It's almost like when dudes had that conversation about some of these celebrity girls that I'd hit that or something like that. You're kind of like, yeah, dude, but like if you ever had the chance to, you know what I mean? Yeah. And this is kind of like what Zeke is kind of talking about, like almost. He's like, out of my selection, that I would like to be with, I would choose these guys. And they're like, dude, they're not even looking at you. You know what I mean? They don't even want you. Like, okay, thanks. But, it's not like you've been in conversations with them. You know what I mean? And Cody and I were talking about this. And then the Jets, only if they're already locked in Aaron Rodgers, said, yeah, maybe for a run, but we don't really need you. Again, like you said, you got two young running backs there too. So it'll work out fine for them. But the Eagles, again, they were willing to walk away from like a Miles Sanders and stuff and still stick with the running backs that they have and even, add somebody
There's
to
a plan for that. There's a reason why.
Picked up Rashad Penny.
Yeah, and Rashad Penny, things like that. So, the only close thing is like maybe the Bengals, if in case Joe Mixon gets injured or something like that, because he had a little bit of that last year.
He's got a court appearance he has to make, so he might miss some time
as well. So I mean, if all of them, that would be probably the best fit, if quote unquote fit.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because not many people even know the name of the backup for the Bengals. I believe right now it's Travion Williams would be the guy. I don't think that's what they're going to end up going with. I assume Zeke isn't looking for much money with the teams that he listed because it just looks like, hey, I want these two teams that could compete for a Super Bowl and this team who's picking up guys to go for a Super Bowl. Those are my top teams. So it's like, it seems like he wants to go for the rings. He's not going for the money anymore. He's like, been there, done that. It didn't really work out. I'm done getting fed the money. You don't need to feed me with that anymore. Feed me some rings.
Yeah, feed him.
And
some
here's
rings
the other
like
thing
Sonic.
too is like he handpicks the Eagles and Bengals because obviously they're the winning.
Yeah,
they're the thoroughbreds.
They've been there.
You know what I mean? They're the thoroughbreds. They're the
Yeah,
sexy team to go to. But at the same time, like there's a plan in place. There's a reason why the Eagles moved on from Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
And they are taking quality visits from other running backs. Bijan Johnson, who's rated the number one running back coming out, who is seen as like a you can't miss type of a pick at that position. That's a guy that they could easily grab, for where they're picking. Same thing with the Bengals. If the Bengals view Joe Mixon to get into that much trouble, why would they sign an older Zeke when they can just draft or sign an undrafted free agent that has potential and insert him into the lineup and in the rotation? So I think for Zeke, I think this is just his pipe dream where he wants to go.
Yeah, probably.
But in reality, those teams that he would like to go to, they don't need him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah, kind of trying to drum up his own news.
Joe, I found this article. I thought it'd be kind of funny to bring it up to you because, again, you being the Vegas Raiders fan and stuff. But I just found out recently that
fake news.
Yeah, I know. But check this out, Jimmy Garoppolo. offered free sex, Isn't that hilarious?
That's true, actually.
I know, but they offered free sex. Apparently, Caitlin Bell and Alice Little of the Chicken Ranch brothel, are enamored by his good looks and everything, and they're so excited that he's there and the potential because, he was, I think they've quoted saying, hey, he brought the 49ers to the Super Bowl. With now the Super Bowl coming up, it's going to be in Vegas. How great would it be? And oh my goodness, and he needs to be treated like, like a king here, and this is what they need to do. But not only just by them, but also Sherry's Ranch also invited him and even some of the other players to
the dominoes are falling now, aren't they?
Experience.
The dominoes are falling.
Isn't it messed up? Like you didn't get this with Derek Carr. Is it just that he doesn't have the attractive factor?
Well,
Like,
he was married and a very religious man, so they were like, we're not going to try. We're not going to.
Or anybody else even too.
But with Jimmy G, the Jimmy G thing,
isn't that hilarious?
The funny thing is, like, now we'll finally find out if he's gay or not, because. Now we'll see if is he going to actually go to the ranches? Is he actually going to go participate? Because if he does, then okay, we got it now. We know. If not, jury's still out.
And what I think is hilarious too is that the fact that he and again, a few years ago, it was seen out with an adult film star too. So I think people are trying to link things together on that whole situation. But I think it's funny the fact that now, he's the quarterback of the Vegas Raiders. That this is what comes out here, and somebody actually
only in
does
Vegas.
This type of stuff,
That's
right?
absurd.
Only in Vegas.
It is funny what happens. What happens in Vegas should stay in Vegas. So will we find out if he ever takes him up on this deal? We won't know, I guess, right? You're talking about.
I'm sure there's going to be like the paparazzi after him. You know what I mean?
How does that even work though?
Look, there's a picture of him walking in.
If Robert Kraft and even Deshaun Watson in trouble and stuff for some of the things that they, were accused of doing, in these other places, massage parlors. I mean, I know it's legal in Vegas and stuff like that, but what if Jimmy G's just like, he's just walking into the stadium.
Yeah.
They show him listening to their Beats headphones, we're walking in by himself. He's just got these two ladies with him.
Right.
Like, I'm here, guys.
That's it.
That's
what's up.
Absolutely. So, let us know, you guys, what's going on, in the comments too. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about here with the free agency and stuff. Oh, we got a few out here. Who else we got here? We got Mike Tackett's in the house.
What's up, Mike?
He says Zeke wants old Zeke production money. If he takes new Zeke money, he'll be signed and utilized as a third down running back who can be a dual threat running back. Pretty sure dual threat means
third down running back who can be a dual threat.
All right.
So he has potential to be a dual threat. That's what he's saying. He's a third stringer all day long,
and Mike
but
Tackett
has potential to be a
that's
dual
what
threat.
he's got to come to realization. But maybe he's come down to earth now. Maybe him and maybe he'll go meet up with Jimmy G and we'll try and prove the both factors at the same time. And there it is.
Maybe.
If Zeke now is gay too, because it's like Mike Tackett, they've got the gay burlesque places in Vegas too, right? Asking for a friend. So there you go. We'll find out.
Asking for Jimmy G? Is that a question for Jimmy G?
And that's the thing, this was posted, like Joe's talking fake news. TMZ's out there and all this stuff, so they're going to probably be all over this.
This can be entertaining.
Absolutely as well. We had talked about it earlier, but we'll bring it up here again. The fact that this has been an ongoing thing with the Aaron Rodgers thing, him coming out of the darkness cave here in the Jets, talking about negotiations, what they're going to give up here. I think that some of the things that we could maybe discuss here is, the fact that they go out and get McCole Hardman, which I think is a great pickup for the Jets. Absolutely. We've already heard the demands that, Aaron Rodgers wanted. So they get added on the tail end possibly if this all goes down. But McCole Hardman, and then Cody and I had talked about it and said, so one of these things got to fall. Elijah Moore is going somewhere. Maybe if he's going in that trade or not. But now, once they got McCole Hardman, there you go. The Elijah Moore thing happened. So now it seems like now they're loading up on picks and they're trying to find that value that maybe the Packers were asking for on this whole deal. But is it going to be too much in this whole deal for either team, to give up? I'm sure the Packers don't really care so much, but how much is too much to give up for Aaron Rodgers, probably for a short amount of time for the Jets?
First round pick, way too much. First round pick, easy. You cannot give up a first round pick for Aaron Rodgers. And I think
it looks like they're doing more.
And I think that's what the stipulation is between both teams. I feel like they're like, oh yeah, we're definitely going to work on a trade with you guys, but the Jets are like, no, we don't want to give up our first round pick. Second round pick is still kind of pushing it, and you got to remember, he's not in his prime. He's 39 years old. He's at the end of his career. He questions himself every single year for the last 3 years whether he's going to retire or play another year. And you see it that he's got 2 years. I think is it 2 years left on his contract.
Yeah, I believe 2 years right now.
2 years left on his contract. He could play 1 year and say, "Yeah, I think I'm done. You get the trade done and over it. Yeah, I think I'm done. What'd you give up? Well, we gave up a little too much. You know what I mean? So I think if you're a team taking a risk on Rodgers, not only do you have to take on that crazy guaranteed money in his contract right away, but then to give up whatever compensation you agree on, if it's a lot, then you lost both ways. You got your cap sucked away from obtaining the player in Aaron Rodgers, but also you gave up draft picks to help build the future. So if you're going to only have Rodgers for one, and let's just say he does play 2 years.
Yeah.
Let's just say he does commit to playing 2 years. That's only 2 years. He's not the future. You still got to find the answer again. If you're bailing on Zach Wilson, you're like, all right, well, he's not our guy. We got to move on from him. He's not our guy. We're bringing in Rodgers. Rodgers will give us a spark right away, and then maybe we can find a quarterback maybe this draft. Maybe we can find a quarterback in next year's draft.
Yeah.
But that's a big maybe because you might not find your quarterback the next 2 years, maybe 3 years. So the plan going forward is not valid. Like, unless you're ready to win now, if you're a team that says all we need is a quarterback, we can win and maybe win a championship. Then you do the deal. But for the fact for the Jets, yes, they got a really talented defense, really good defense, but they got some pieces on offense that they're putting together. It's starting to look like something. You add Aaron Rodgers, does that boost your chances to win? Absolutely. But is it going to get you over the hump? Is it going to be enough to do it right now and make a push for the division? Now make the playoffs. Now push deep into the playoffs. Are you going to be able to make a Super Bowl run? No. I don't think you are right now at the current state that the team is in. I think they're going to win more games, obviously. I think they'll be competitive in everything. Could they win the division? Sure. It's a close division now.
Yeah.
Maybe he puts them over the top. But long term, if you're trying to build this team right, Robert Saleh, if you're trying to make this thing last a long time and not short, then Rodgers isn't the answer. But right now, you don't have any other options. So they're just stuck right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been a little weird in the situation from the start because the Jets have been doing so good in the last couple drafts, getting a lot of big young guys coming in. You got
High
Sauce
caliber draft
Gardner,
picks,
Garrett
yeah.
Wilson. Like, they're hitting on a lot of these picks, and then all of a sudden it's like, yo, let's get Rodgers. Like, we're ready. We're ready right now. And I'm thinking maybe the issue with the compensation is they might be willing to give up a first, but if I remember correctly, they wanted 2 firsts when they first said what they wanted for him.
That was being reported from other reports.
Yeah.
That wasn't directly from them. Like when you hear the press conference from Gutekunst and everything, he even said first round pick would be nice, and that's kind of what we're shooting for. But at the same time, like they're willing to hear what people have to offer and see where the conversations go. So I kind of steer away from that first round pick thing. It could still happen, but I think that's giving up too much for a guy that you're not really sure what you have when you get him. Because everybody can say, yeah, I'll play for 2 years, no problem. They play for a year. Man, I got beat up last year. Jesus, I'm walking with a limp now. I think I'm done. You know what I mean? So it's the unexpectation of not knowing the future of the guy you're trying to obtain.
Yeah, and your theory looks pretty legit at this point. Because what we've seen from Aaron Rodgers in the last couple seasons, he's sitting there hosting Jeopardy and saying whether I'm not sure if I'm going to come back. Well, I think he's better than the guy they have now. I just can't buy in on the guy they have now.
That's his calling right now.
I think he's too straight, narrow. Like, I don't know, boring.
Too serious.
It's no Alex Trebek, but I think Aaron Rodgers had some character to it. But you weren't sure then, and then the whole song and dance, give me some attention. All right, sure, I will. Now he comes out of the cave and out of the darkness. And he says, I was fully content with retiring. I was 90%.
90%.
And
That's
now,
that's a lot of percentage
now
right
you
there.
hurt my feelings. So now I feel like I have to play.
And then he heard that he might
Yeah.
get traded to the Jets. He's
Yes.
like, yes, I'm in.
Yeah, and now so now he's ready to play here. So what happens if things go bad here with the Jets or they don't live up to whatever? You're at the whim of whatever he's feeling that day. You know, all of a
Yeah.
sudden he's going to go in his cave again into the darkness and pop out, and he's like, you know what? I feel like a giraffe today. You know what I mean? It's like, what? What are you talking
Right,
about? You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like,
And that's the other thing is the way Rodgers is as a person.
yeah.
He's so unpredictable. You
Yeah.
don't know what he's thinking
It's
week
tough.
to week. And the way he doesn't do OTAs. So if the Jets are hoping
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that
Right.
he's got to come in, he's
And
going to run
gel
the
with some
offense.
of
Well,
those
you're going to
guys.
have to
Yeah.
wait till training camp.
Yeah.
Because I don't do OTAs.
Yeah.
I'm a veteran. I don't have to prove nothing.
Yeah.
So you guys got to prove something to me. You know what I mean?
Yep, and he's even shown with the Packers even to try and grow with young wide receivers. He's like, no. All right, so then you talked about the game plan. Well, you drafted Zach Wilson. He's had opportunities here and there. It didn't look so hot, but it's not like you grab Aaron Rodgers, a veteran, that's going to help Zach Wilson get better. He's already told you a bunch of different times when you bring other guys, I'm not here to help you. He's doing that whole same route that happened with him with, Brett Favre. He's not going to help you groom a running back or a quarterback here his backup. And it's not going to do that. Like you said, it's going to be a short-term lease. And are you really geared to win? I think you have great young talent, and you had a process in place to go, but now you kind of skip to the end. You did this whole skip route. You're like, oh, I'm going to I don't know if I want to wait for this. Well, I'm just going to do this right now. Bang. We just saw the Rams do it. Yeah, boom. Let's just do that. Okay, how's that working? Because you just screwed up your whole plan in your process. Yeah. One, on top of that, how is the relations going to be if all of a sudden things aren't working out and Aaron Rodgers, you've seen how snippy he gets. How's that going to go with a fiery Robert Saleh on the other end on the sidelines? Are they going to start yelling at each other too in the situation here?
Epic.
Is he going to command, you get your stuff together, this offense sucks, What are you going to get out of this whole thing? It could be a pony song, a song and dance, pony show. And the fact that the Miami Dolphins have even gotten better, and the Bills are still there competing. So it is a tough division to even come out of here.
Oh, definitely. And that goes without saying. The other thing, too, that's interesting that is also Jets news is that they're in talks with Odell Beckham Jr. And I wonder if Rodgers signed off on this
on the
kind
list.
of move
He was on the list.
But they are in talks. Both sides want to get the deal done, but I'm curious to know if it does happen, what Odell ends up with in terms of contract. Because we all know that asking for $20 million a year was blasphemy. That was ridiculous for a guy that has back-to-back seasons, ACL tears, and now you're saying I'm still a $20 million a year guy.
Yeah, what was the number that he had brought up afterwards? Because I know he came out saying that those reports were initially false. Then he's like, "Oh, I actually just want this."
Sure.
It was like 1 year 6 or something like that. It's like, I just want to play.
He's finding that out now. That
Yeah.
it's not, no one's going to be paying that
Why
kind of
is
money.
my phone so dry?
Yeah,
I'm a superstar.
What it is, too, I think maybe too. I think it's to help weed out some of those other teams that might just want to do, like again, some of those teams are willing to grab somebody to help them out. Oh, we'll pay you, this much, but not. So he's just like, I'll play for you if you give me this much right now. And they're like, yeah, we're out. He's like, all right, good. Because now I want to find the other teams that are really looking for somebody. No, I wouldn't be surprised that he does something like that. You know what I mean? Weed out those other guys. Yeah, because again, people will look at him and be like, oh, he'll go play for the Texans for this much, or whatever. He doesn't want to do that.
No,
so if
no.
he just
Even
like,
if the
whatever.
Texans were willing to give up that kind of a crazy
Yeah.
number, $20 million a year, I still don't think he would go there.
No.
Because there's no quarterback that solidified that job. They're going to draft one. There's a learning curve there.
Yeah,
so. I think he's looking for both, a little bit of both. He's looking for a certain number for his contract, but also a situation that he can go into and help the team compete to win.
Absolutely. So I mean that stuff is ongoing here too, nonstop. Like we said, it's supposed to be going down and happening. Whatever we keep hearing, but it's just finalizing.
Just wait.
Issues that are
Smile
going
and
through
wave,
here
boys.
so far, but.
Smile and wave.
but the free agency has been pretty crazy. Right now, a lot of different teams moving there places. What do you think about? I know Cody, you had brought up the fact again, some of these D tackles getting paid and stuff like that. But the Laramie Tunsil thing again too. The fact that he has gone out and said, I want to be the highest paid. All of a sudden, people surpassed him, and then all of a sudden he says, "No, I don't think so. I still want to be the highest paid again." And then all of a sudden, he gets the deal done again, and there he is, and he's his own. A guy negotiating the whole situation, and it happened. You
look at his career; all of his contracts haven't been long.
No,
they've been short-term deals for the reason.
Yeah.
For that reason alone, he was smarter than all of his other guys.
Yeah.
People that play the game. He's just smarter than everybody.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, that's what it comes down to. He's like, wait a second. He told his agent, he's like, yo, I don't want to sign a long-term deal. Let's work on a 3-year deal or something like that. But I want to be the highest paid in terms of a tackle.
Yeah.
And when that deal comes up, I'm still young enough to command a lot of money again. And that's really what the whole, process was. Is for him, he's like, at the end of this deal, I'll be this age, still in my prime. At the is still in my prime, make another big deal. So he's been very, very smart with how he approaches, contracts.
It's true.
Absolutely. We got Brandon DeCapita in the house with us.
No, it's Brandon D'Angelo.
Oh, it's Brandon
close.
D'Angelo. Oh, whoops,
Can't
sorry.
read.
Sorry, I can't read. Well, I see the D, so I imagine automatically you just jump to maybe it's your brother, but it's Brando's here. He goes,
It's a brother from another mother.
It is. There you go.
What's going on, Brandon?
Drafted a tackle. Me and Joe were talking the other day about us needing one. Hope he's good. So he's a Raiders fan?
No, he's a Saints fan.
He's a Saints fan.
If you remember, I told you I'm watching the
that's
Saints
right.
this
That's
year. I'm
right.
rooting for
That's
them.
right. He is a Saints fan. That's right.
There's no
What
point in being a
D-tackle
Raiders
did they
fan
just
this
pick
year.
up?
What?
What D tackle did they just pick up?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
That's your job.
Yeah,
you
I'll
look it up.
right? I'll
Yeah,
look into
Cody, you
it.
gotta
I'll
be the
see-
Cody, you
guy.
got to be more professional about this.
Yeah.
You can't spew things
like,
out in the
who
mic
is
and then say,
Yeah,
Sorry,
Oh,
I gave you an
that's your
opportunity.
job.
I
You're
read
like
the line for
OG
you.
know-it-all.
He's like, oh, yeah, that's right. You got to do that one. So,
Yeah, I'll look. You guys
Hashtag
can go.
know-it-alls.
yeah. So, I mean, again, Joey, you have been able to maybe start digging and diving and looking at some of the tape and
Little bit.
doing your scouting on some of these guys out here.
Little bit.
Anybody out there piqued your interest so far? Any of these guys out there? I know they're doing pro days and stuff for quarterbacks, people checking them out and stuff.
And that's like the biggest thing right now is because you had Ohio State's pro day, and then the very next day you had Alabama's pro day. And the funny thing is some of the teams meeting with these quarterbacks. It was hilarious. I saw a small clip of the Carolina Panthers with Frank Reich and then Josh McCown as the quarterback's coach. Being introduced to C.J. Stroud, and I've never seen Frank Reich smile so much. Like, it was kind of funny. Josh McCown was also like, he's like, hey, he just couldn't take his hands off him. He's like, yeah, this is the guy. You know what I mean? This is the guy I like. But then in Alabama's pro day, the Panthers and their brass, they were there too, and they met up with Bryce Young and took him to dinner. Wined him, dined him a little bit, maybe kind of get underneath the helmet, so to speak, a little bit more info on him and how he presents himself and how he goes about his day. So I think Carolina is in on both those quarterbacks. That's something that is not not surprising. But I really do believe that I think out of those two, I think they're trying to find a weakness between the two. You know what I mean? Right now they're trying to decipher which one of these two guys are the guy for us. Which one do we think that will fit our system best, and which one do we think is going to be better for us in the future? So I think that other than that, like as far as other players, yeah, there's definitely some players that I think of like wide receiver. I think of Jalen Hyatt off the top of my head, for kid from Tennessee, a guy with a lot of speed. He's got size. He's got hands. He runs good routes, not great routes, but good routes. And a guy that's made an impact for that team. Obviously, he had his quarterback Hendon Hooker, who's also a draftee this year. Who I really do love his game. If I would say that if he did not get hurt, and he would be in this top 3 conversation with these other 2 quarterbacks, hands down. But Jalen Hyatt is a guy that I really like. I love his game. I like where he could take his game in the NFL, because when you go from college to the NFL, with the coaching and the training and everything that's available to you, you're only going to get better. So for Hyatt, I think he's one of those key players to watch for come draft day. If you're in need of a receiver, he's definitely a guy that I have a first-round grade on. Other than that, really love the kid from Ohio State in Jibba, Smith and Jibba. Guys doesn't have blazing speed, but he's already been known to not have blazing speed. Yeah. He has average speed. He runs about 4.5.
He ran a good 40 at his pro day.
Yeah. What was it?
4.4, 4.48, something like that.
4.48.
Which is
so
pretty good. It's nice.
About average. But we all knew that he wasn't a blazer anyway.
Right.
But what we do know is he's arguably the best route runner in the draft. Like nobody runs routes like him. That's why he has huge separation, has sure hands, is definitely a difference maker in the middle of the field. So those two guys, I could go on, but we'll get to that. And as far as I would say this though, like I brought up a couple receivers, but as I'm looking at other receivers that they're trying to hype up, like Addison there from USC. I'm sorry, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid.
I don't.
That guy to me is being hyped up too much to the point where I feel like some team, we'll find out who on draft day, is going to make a mistake and draft him. Not that he's a bad athlete, but he just, to me, doesn't have the overall attributes that you would need to play wide receiver in the NFL. A little slower than I would like, definitely smaller. And that's kind of a concern for me. Like if you're coming from college to the NFL and you don't have the frame to build it and get bigger, that's a concern. So that's where I see Addison is. I the frame thing bothers me. And other than that, there's plenty of defensive players to have this draft. We're going to get into that as we get closer to the draft. We'll have our draft special. We'll talk about each position groups. We'll give you our top 10 of each group. But other than that, like I would say that the receiving weapons as a core coming into this draft is weaker than normal. There's a lot of average wide receivers that you can find. So
a lot of complimentary.
Yeah,
guys.
like if you're looking for an elite guy, you're definitely going to have to take like a guy like Jalen Hyatt. I think is going to be tremendous. He'll definitely be a number one in for a team.
Not as big of a fan.
Peanut Gallery, shut up. But overall, like there's those the wide receivers for the most part are just all average, and that's kind of a concern if you're a team that is in need of a number one or in need of a. You can find speedsters, but I just don't see a lot of them becoming number ones.
I think that's even sometimes in this off season what we're seeing, or the free agent period. You're seeing some of these guys get grabbed up here and there too. Because maybe they're not sold on some of the wide receiver, or they're just planning on getting him in later rounds, like dropping back, and they're more concerned on maybe trying to pick up some of the defensive players here or some of the linemen, what they want to shore up their team. Talking about teams that are active, though, too, of the teams out here, Cody, like who's the team I think that's done the most probably in free agency for you, and that not only just most active, but probably has done the better job out of anybody right now at this point?
All right, so I'm looking at teams that have been getting a lot of value by just getting guys on the cheap, good players, starters. I've been looking at how the Seahawks have kind of been doing under the radar. They got a new starter, Julian Love. I believe they also grabbed Devin Bush to lead their linebacking core. They've been making a lot of moves, re-signing guys they need to and strengthening that defense as a whole. Them got the Lions. They've been going crazy in their secondary, really getting that defense away from being the NFL leader in points given up. They ended the year so good. So to see them upgrading the roster, they have a lot of picks. I'm really excited to see what the Lions could do this next season. Those are just the two teams that just jump out to me immediately so far.
Yeah, absolutely, and very active. I think the Bears have been very active with everything too, and what they're trying to do. I mean, potentially with that division the way it's been, they could turn this thing around really quickly, especially when there's a big question mark. We didn't talk about it when we were talking Jets and Packers, but what's the outcome with the Packers this season here? Cody and I had talked about it off camera about it seemed like their defense was decent here too, and still they're always that contender for that division and playoffs and even for the Super Bowl. But now when you reset from an Aaron Rodgers situation here, and now you're going to go in on Love, and you've got these draft picks, how well are you going to do this season, especially when Chicago's loading up right now? They've got picks, they've got talent over there too as well to help out for Justin Fields too. And Minnesota is still kind of just lingering there, but watch out, because you got the Lions too on top of this, like Cody just talked about. This is a loaded, division here, and we might just blink and Green Bay could be at the bottom. We're not sure.
And that's the thing too, is like, I know there's a lot of fans for the Packers that are excited about the move to transfer to Jordan Love.
Yeah, because
but here's the other thing too, is
look in the past,
temper your expectations a little bit. I think that Jordan Love has definitely gotten better since he entered the league. He sat, and that's kind of like, the profile for the Packers. That's what they do with quarterbacks. They let them sit for a couple years, maybe 3 years, and then they kind of bring them in, and that's usually at the tail end of the former quarterback that is ousted. They get to come in and start. So for Love, it's kind of the same thing we saw with Brett Favre and Rodgers. They drafted Rodgers. He sat behind Favre for a few years, and then it came time to make the switch. Packers, they're doing the same thing again with Love. Yes, we saw some flashes, some highlights a little bit on the little bit of time that he got to play last year, but temper your expectations because he's not Aaron Rodgers right now. I don't think he'll ever be Aaron Rodgers, but the one thing that you can hope for as a Packers fan is he's just a solid quarterback that doesn't make too many mistakes. And that's going to help your team out going forward. So I know that the Packers for many, many years have been spoiled in that department. They've had the likes of a Hall of Famer and Brett Favre, and now Rodgers there for a long amount of time. So they could be excited. That's fine. But let's wait and see what he can do this upcoming season, where he does actually get the torch passed to him. And now it's on him. Now he's got to work with a second-year Romeo Doubs. He's got to work with a second-year Christian Watson. He's got to work with whoever else they add to.
Yeah, they need a lot more help in that receiver.
So, and that's the thing. Like, I like the Packers. I like where they're headed. They do have some nice pieces still. But moving on from Rodgers, it's going to be a tall order to overcome.
True.
Yeah, so I mean, bringing up teams that have really been active in free agency, who do you think has made probably the biggest impact too, as well, to help their team in just a limited amount of time just in free agency so far?
I don't know. Honestly, this is one of the free agencies, as crazy as it's been, it's always been the Bears right now.
Yeah.
The Bears are in the lead by a mile. And that's because they had a lot of money to spend, but also they've been very, smart with the way they manipulated the draft already with getting a lot more draft capital than they already had.
Yeah.
So they're going to be able to make a huge splash in the draft, whether they want to move up or move down and collect more picks. They have that freedom now where they can definitely do whatever they want and get the guys that they are keying on. And then free agency, they bolstered their team, and with the trade with Carolina to get DJ Moore.
That started it all.
Now you have a legitimate number one. There's no question there. Like now you have DJ Moore, and you have the other guys that you have available with Chase Claypool and what have you. Those guys they're not number ones. They're twos and threes.
Right.
So now they go back to what they're supposed to be doing, their roles that they sit in, and I think that's what's going to help make this offense better. And we still have the draft to come around. You know what I mean? This draft is going to be crazy with talent, especially with offensive line. The offensive line is deep. The linebackers are deep. The defense is deep. It's crazy. So I can't wait until we get to dive into that a little bit more. But yeah, for me, it's the Bears hands down. Like we've seen good signings from time to time, like the Lions. They've made a few good signings, that kind of like no one's really talking about them, kind of like during the season.
Yeah.
And they're just like, hey, that's a smart move. Hey, that's another good signing. So let's see where these teams end up. But one team that I would say that I'm a little disappointed in is the Cardinals. Cardinals is a team that just hasn't made a lot of moves, hardly at all.
They've been silent.
And they have $25 million in cap space right now. Like, why aren't you utilizing it like other teams that have money still? And there's other good players that you could bring in, maybe just a 1-year deal of you're bringing a veteran who already knows how to play, who plays at a good level. You bring him in for just 1 year, and it helps your team to build later on, the following year. So there's teams that are like that just aren't doing enough, I feel like, and falling short of expectations for a lot of fans.
Right, yeah, and that's going to make fans frustrated too if they're sitting there like, what is my team doing? They're not doing anything. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Again, because you're seeing some of these other things go on, and when you have a team like the Bears right there, number one, and you knew you had to give up a lot to take that spot.
Oh, yeah.
But what even Carolina gave them too was ridiculous because I think the picks were enough, but then to give you DJ Moore on top of it, I'm like, holy crap, dude. I mean, there it is. Like, it just lines them up, and it shows you right there that they were ready to move on, and that none of these quarterbacks here in this draft really are, on their mind. So you knew they weren't going quarterback because what you even saw in the last couple of weeks with Justin Fields and what he was able to do when it seemed like they're ready just to do a fire sale and move on and say, screw this, here we go, reset button. Now it looks like they're in that, not a reset, but a retool. And like now we're making a push just within a bad season, turning it right back around from worst, not the first, but make production, and do something.
Definitely. You look at Roquan Smith, they moved on from him, which was, to be honest, that was a little bit of a shock to me. But again, I think that the newer regime that's there, I think they had an idea like, hey, we're not going to overpay for players. Yeah. Going forward, we're going to be smart about our money. Yep. So to pay Roquan Smith the millions of dollars that he wanted, they were like, well, we're not willing to meet that. So let's move on from him, get some draft capital. And the same thing with Robert Quinn. They moved Robert Quinn out too, a guy that is aging and is at the end of his career, still productive. But they're like, hey, we don't want to spend the money on him either anymore. So let's move on from him. So the Bears have done they've been smart in their decision making thus far. They've done a good job in free agency. And moving on from high-priced players. So let's see what they can do going forward. They're still not done yet. They got $38 million under the cap. There's still plenty of guys if they want or feel like they need to. They can go after easily. And then the draft is going to be crazy for Chicago fans.
Brando's answer his question, I think it was Nathan Shepard here. They just grabbed him. He was with the Jets for a while here. And now he's here with the Saints. He's turning 30, I think, coming up here, too. So he's older. He's been in the league for a while, but more like a style D-tackle type of run stopper, I think, here for them. So nothing going to make a huge impact for him, but a solid player.
Paul Matty just announced he's back.
Paul Matty's back, everybody. Holy moly, he is back.
Legend. Wait for it. Dairy.
Yeah,
Paul, we were just talking about like free agency and what we think that what teams we in our minds think that are doing a really good job in free agency, and then some of the teams are just kind of falling short.
Yeah,
like I know my team, the Raiders. I think they're going for number 1 pick next year.
Yeah, it looks like it. Again, it's one of those things that's why people scratch their heads on some of these former Patriots coaches because the things that they do, you're kind of like, let's just get rid of everybody here and let's just get all former Patriots. I know this guy.
There's really only.
Let's get my neighbor over here.
There's only 2 former Patriots that are actually good head coaches.
Yeah, right.
Brian Flores and then Tennessee Titan.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel.
Vrabel, yeah.
He's probably learned the most from him. And like I said to Cody, I think I've probably said it on the show, is he took the most important thing from Bill Belichick, what he learned from Bill. Not the fact that be stern, tell everybody to do their job, doing this. He actually studied the rule books, I think, from top to bottom and tried to really work on strategy against teams. What do I have to do to strategize to get my best way to win this game and inspire my players at the same time and get the most out of some of these guys that you might not have, expected to do well. I mean, you do have, Derrick Henry there, obviously, but who expected to see when they grabbed Ryan Tannehill to do what he kind of did for this team, though? You know what I mean? And I think that's got to be partially a part of the head coach and get him to inspire him to win, And it's great that you do have a good running back like that and stuff, but Ryan Tannehill also put up great numbers with a receiving core that wasn't really lighting it up. Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the thing
Patriot-esque.
Too. Like, I mean, the funny thing about that is they signed Robert Woods last offseason.
Bobby Trees.
And hoping that he would be, kind of like a little bit of a spark. But he he was on the field, but you never saw him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That just didn't work out. Yeah. But then they draft Treylon Burks, and he comes in as a rookie, and you're already trying to expect him to be something that he maybe not even ready to be. Is that starting caliber receiver. And yeah, he was thrusted into the lineup. He showed some flashes. He got some plays and he made some plays. But at the end of the day, that's not going to help win games. You didn't have a real receiving core. And their offensive line was putrid. It was terrible. There was no protection half the time. And that's why they're running so much, is because they're like, well, we can't pass block, but maybe we can run block. And Derrick Henry can bowl down everybody. So that team going forward, they really, really need to work on that offensive line desperately. They need weapons, for crying out loud. Help out the quarterback a little bit, please. And hopefully, maybe the tight end, I forgot how to say his name, the rookie from last year. Do you remember, Cody? It was like Chig.
Oh, gosh.
Something.
Oh, yeah.
Look at me for pronunciations. I'll butcher them every time.
Yeah, he will. Anyways, we'll all do it. But Paul Matty he's interested about his Bucs, and he says he likes the Baker Mayfield going to the Buccaneers.
Yeah, just everyone's got to wear helmets on the sideline because he's going around headbutting everybody.
He is. When did that start? Like, all of a sudden, he thought that was a good idea.
That started after the Browns said, "You're not our quarterback."
Right?
He got so angry. He's like, "I'm headbutting everybody. They're all getting it."
That might be what happens when you start eating all that nacho cheese out of the vending machine there at the Brown Stadium.
That's true.
Took over. It could be it. Something strange going on.
Now he's had to move twice.
Well, you got to have something interesting
no longer
to go with the Bucs,
no longer living in the Brown Stadium as his house. Now he's got to get deliveries down in Tampa. Now he's got to change his address.
I'm interested to see what happins with that team.
It's a quarterback competition. We know that because they have the second year guy there, Kyle Trask. So they're hoping he could win the job. But I don't know. I think Baker Mayfield, he's been around. He's a vet, so he might have, as long as he can get the playbook down. I feel like that's the only advantage Trask has right now.
Yeah.
But if Baker is able to get the playbook down in like less than 2 weeks, because he does that so well, then
apparently,
who knows? It'll be a nice quarterback competition in Tampa.
Yeah, he said Jim McMahon used to headbutt his lineman after touchdowns. Well, precisely. And you see what's wrong with Jim McMahon right now?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, bro, that guy is messed up. And we got Chris McGreal in the house with us tonight. He says,
"What's going on, Chris?
What do you think of how the Browns have been done so far here in free agency?"
They're another one of those teams that have done a pretty good job so far of just getting guys to value. Like, they've bolstered their D-line. They went out and they got a backup quarterback, not as big, but depth is huge, especially when your starters just coming back. This will be his first full season back since everything happened. So, we'll see how that ends up going. You got Elijah Moore recently in that trade. They've made some good moves to just make their team stronger as a whole. So I'll be definitely curious to see if maybe they can start performing to maybe their expectations when they went out and signed Watson to this mega deal.
Yeah, and they've definitely done a good job. I feel like, especially for the trade, Elijah Moore. I mean, that to me is a phenomenal trade. A guy that's up and coming, a guy that's super young and wants to prove himself. Now you pair him up with Deshaun Watson. He's going to get to prove himself. He's going to get the ball. Listen, Deshaun Watson, yeah, he had a bad year last year and everything, but we kind of expected the rustiness to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now he's played a little bit of football. He started to get a little bit better as they got to the end, but now he's going to have another whole offseason to work with all the receivers, to hit all the OTAs, to do training camp again. And I feel like, week 1 next year, he's going to be a different man. He's going to be more like the Deshaun Watson that we remember in Houston.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. You're moving on. You don't have a Kareem Hunt there anymore, but still, I mean, what you have in your running back is Nick Chubb is amazing, and it was great, and that's a great thing to have here if you're Deshaun Watson here, to be able to just be able to hand it off and have the that all the pressure on you to get it all done here. But like you said, adding another young wide receiver like Elijah Moore on top of it too. It will help bode well for this team, and hopefully they can take a step forward in this division to where, again, I think it's just it's up and down. I'm not sure, what's going to happen with this division, depending on some people and what goes on, even with Kenny Pickett and what he can do to get better, and even what's going on with the Ravens and even the Bengals at this point. So
here's the thing, and for the Browns, what they've done a tremendous job of adding good talent for holes that they needed. Dalvin Tomlinson comes in to fill in a much need at D tackle. Juwan Thornhill, kind of a guy that kind of got slighted a little bit, but Cleveland recognized his talents, and they bring him in. The guy only 27 years old, still in his prime, on a 3-year deal. Agbanaya Okoronkwo from DN from Houston.
Yes.
This is a guy that's kind of a little bit of a sleeper in free agency. They end up landing him to replace Mr. Clowney boy.
yeah, Javier Clowney, yep.
Then you like Cody mentioned, Jacoby Brissett was the backup, quarterback. He ends up going to Washington. But they also bring Jordan Atkins, which I think is an interesting signing. A guy formerly of the Houston Texans. He comes over to be that number 2 tight end, or at least now you can do dual tight ends with Njoku. And Sion Taki, they re-sign him. A guy that honestly, he's been with Cleveland, but he's like one of these unsung heroes on the defense where you hear his name from time to time during the broadcast, but the guy's a really good linebacker. So it was key to bring him back. Other than that, they also bring in a guy like a depth piece in Tristan Hill, guy formerly of the Arizona Cardinals, a guy that can be in that rotation for them and help out. Also, Anthony Walker Jr., who I cannot believe was out in free agency as long as he was. Honestly, guy's a hell of a middle linebacker, and the Colts moved on from him. Then the Cleveland Browns jumped on him. They bring him back for another 1-year deal, another short-term deal. So it's crazy how often this is going to transpire, obviously, in the future off seasons where a lot of guys are signing these short-term deals, so they're jumping around team to team half the time.
There we go. We actually got another comment coming in from Paul Maddie. So what do you guys think of the Jags offseason moves? Or I guess more in this case, it's a little more lack thereof. They've only made a couple signings. They've re-signed a handful of guys, but even the guys they've picked up, it's, back up here, back up here.
Yeah.
There's not a lot there. I think the only guy who might play is, Roy Robertson Harris. The only guy they've picked up so far that's probably going to be in the lineup. Other than that, they got Dearness Johnson, a good backup. Not someone who you're going to be see jumping off the screen or making huge plays for him. But
I mean, we saw a little bit about Johnson in Cleveland. When he got his opportunity, he really shined.
Well. Yeah.
He shined immensely. So he's definitely going to be part of that rotation. And I feel like that's a big need now in today's NFL. You need 2 running backs.
Yeah.
You can't just go with the feature back guy. Like, I know Tennessee keeps trying to push that with Henry, but Henry is going to start getting banged up. And quite honestly, we've seen it already. Yeah. And it's going to come to a point where he might get a serious injury. Now, what do you do with your offense? You're gearing it all around Henry, but if he's not there, what do you have?
There's not much there.
Yeah, and my question mark for them too is what are you going to get with Calvin Ridley? You know what I mean? Because again, a guy who wasn't sure what he wanted to do, and play, come back to the game and play, but then all of a sudden got in trouble with the gambling situation and stuff too.
That was so bogus.
But I mean, it's and so what do you expect out of this guy? What are you gonna get? I'm not sure. And then that's the guy you go for, in free agency right away. I mean, you did have some other guys I think even if they added Adam Thielen on the cheap, or you pair him with Zay Jones and Christian Kirk on there, it's a nice cheap little addition to you. Get a veteran there with you, and it's a nice move without not having Marvin Jones with you anymore because they moved on from him.
I mean, the thing with that is they're looking at youth movement right now. Calvin Ridley, he's still young in his prime. He's going to return healthy, and he's going to be really good. He's going to be Pro Bowl-ish. That's and it's only going to be it's going to and it's going to be up to Trevor. Really,
Trevor Lawrence.
Look at Christian Kirksey. He had a really good year, really good year. Now you put in Calvin Ridley to that lineup, and now you got a complete roster. Zay Jones, everyone's gonna laugh at Zay Jones, but Zay Jones sneakily had a very good season. So it's like you're adding another
I think
piece.
he distributed the ball a lot last season. I thought
You get Calvin Ridley to come into this lineup, and now it's not like, oh, we only have to worry about Christian and Zay. We could probably handle him. Now you put in Ridley, and it's like a lot of the some of the defensive coordinators are already, especially in that division, they're already keying on him as a potential guy where we really need to make sure that we know where he is at all times, because he can be dangerous. We've seen him in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And yes, he's had some time away for various reasons, but I fully expect, because the guy is still young, still in his prime, he's going to work his tail off to prove to everybody in the NFL that he's still the same athlete he was.
Yeah, this could be a terrifying offense, especially if we can see him keeping that same kind of chemistry with Evan Ingram as well in that offense. So, you'll be able to see Ridley, Jones, Kirk, and Ingram all out there at the same time, and then they still are good in that backfield now, having multiple running backs who can come in and power it up the gut, who can catch passes, who can run outside. That's going to be a scary offense. Last year, we all knew they'd move forward. We weren't, but they took a couple big steps. We could maybe see them take even bigger steps this season, push into the playoffs, maybe try to win a playoff game or two. I don't know about anything past that, but we've seen weirder things. We still have the draft to see what kind of moves they still are to make.
And that's the thing, is we all knew that this team was still building their roster.
Yeah.
And with Doug Peterson, in 1 year, what he was able to do is amazing.
Incredible.
So let's just see. I'm excited for the Jaguars to see where they're headed now. They have this offseason, and they have the draft. So let's see if they can hit on some of these picks. I know there's a couple guys that they brought back, in a guy by the name of Andrew Wingard, the safety.
Yep.
A guy that they really like, had a really good year when he was in the lineup. And, those are the type of guys, him and Arden Key. I feel like Arden Key is a good signing for them. A guy that they can use off the edge and rush off the edge like he was with the Niners. He had his best year of his career last year with the Niners. Obviously, you're like, oh, yeah, he was with the Niners. Of course he did. But no, in terms of production, this guy hasn't done squat until he signed with the Niners, where he was absolutely free and was utilized the right way, what his strengths are. So I feel like the Jaguars are going to do kind of the same thing with him and rush him off the edge when on passing downs. I feel like it's a good another really solid signing for this team that's still building.
Yeah, and again, another division to where it's a kind of opposite of what the other ones I talked about, where the other ones seem like they're getting stacked and it's close. You're not sure what's going to go on. I have question marks still with now the Colts under new management and everything, and still looking for a quarterback situation here. And the Titans, what are they going to do too this year? Are they going to try and fix what the debacle that they had? Texans looks like they're trying to make some moves here to try and rebuild. So it looks like it's the Jags division to kind of lose at this point with the way if they perform anything like they did last season. So
and you think
it
about
shows you how bad the Urban Meyer was too.
And you bring up Tennessee. Well, Tennessee's lost some veteran help. Bud Dupree was a guy that was I know he got injured, but when he was healthy for them, that defense was cooking. That defense was really good. We still don't know what's going to happen with Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard refusing a pay cut. What does that mean for them going forward? Are they just going to be like, okay, fine, you refuse a pay cut? All right, well, then I guess we have to suck it because we just got to deal. We just got to deal with it now. You know what I mean? So usually when that happens, when you refuse a pay cut, the team looks to move on from you. The team looks to either trade you or find some way they can if they can cut you, they'll cut you. But I'm interested to see what happens there, and if he does move on. Now you have a huge glaring hole at safety. So I feel like Tennessee, like you mentioned, they're on the decline now. It's almost at the point where it's a rebuild because yes, you have Tannehill still, but you don't have any future quarterback to take over because Tannehill ain't going to play forever. So that's got to be part of the thought process, especially coming up into this draft. Is there a guy that we can get? Maybe not in the first, maybe not the second, but is there a guy we can develop in the third round or fourth round to when Ryan does leave, we're okay. But they do have the young kid that they invested a high pick on. and
Yeah, Malik.
and
Yeah, Malik
he's
Willis.
got a lot more development to go.
Yep.
And we've seen this regime that they've had for a long time. Eventually, the owners get tired of just mediocrity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they might want to move on from the regime that's there, and then everything changes again. So I think the time is ticking for Tennessee to get it done and get it done.
Right. I mean,
next
if
couple
you're
of
talking
years.
about this, or even like maybe it's now. Maybe again, there is a leash here with Ryan Tannehill this year, and they just say again, we saw a little bit of like Malik Willis. Now we definitely need to know what we have in this guy this year. If things start out poorly for them,
put him in.
how fast do they just make the switch?
I think it all comes. Obviously, we saw like he has talent.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
The biggest
Just
problem,
decision making on some of
the
it,
biggest problem for him coming in, there was concerns with his accuracy, sometimes, but it's also about reading the defenses.
Yeah.
It's also about pre-snap reads and all that. So, it's decisions. It's can he make the better decisions than is he better than last year? Can he improve? The only way you're going to find that out is if you get him in the game.
Yeah.
So, like you said, if for some reason they're struggling early on and they're like, well, this ain't going like we planned, put the kid in and keep him in. Do not put him in and take him back out after a couple games because he had a rough day. No. Leave him in there. Let him get his bumps and bruises, and that's only going to make him better going forward. So, I mean, I hope, that's the hope for Tennessee. Is they're hoping that not only did they hit with him, but also they gotta start planning for the future, because I don't think they've done a good job as a front office. They really haven't done a good job with building this team. Like when they were on top, everyone's like, "Oh, they're pretty amazing. They're good." And then we've seen such a fast decline with this roster and with this team that now it's like now they have gaping holes everywhere.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, well, what just happened? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
We all paid attention to Derek. Derek was the guy. We didn't need to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
Now it's catching up to them. And
the
who
fact
knows?
that they did have, AJ Brown and Julio Jones at one point to try and get them on the same field together and things, and that was kind of their like, let's go all in, let's do this. We got this veteran with us, and boom, it didn't work out, and then AJ Brown trade, and then boom, and then you saw what
That
happened
was it.
with the outcome of that.
That started right there.
and there it
Started
was.
a quick down.
Yep. And like you said, you didn't see a whole lot of what Traylon Burks could be in this offense. You know what I mean?
I mean, he's going
hurt
to
a
be a
lot.
special slot.
Yeah.
He's going to be a special slot receiver for them. But if they're thinking anything like he's going to be a
anything
number
other,
2 or a
yeah.
number 1, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought last season towards the very end, a little bit of a red flag in terms of, maybe they'll like going with Malik Willis in the future was that, I think it was the last game of the season where it was a win and in game. I'm like, they got to put Malik in. They can really see if this guy can step up when needed. When the pressure's on, are we going to see someone who can make plays or at least show that desire? Kind of like when Heineke went in the playoffs in that one game and he dove, went all out for that touchdown. You just saw this kid's heart. But no, they turned to Josh Dobbs. He was never going to be their future. It's like, throw him in. Malik won't win this game. It's like, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that too, and it did. It left a bad taste in my mouth too. It's kind of like, why? Why is this dude?
He's
down here?
obviously the worst option.
Yeah, like they want
You're
to make
not
sure
third
we
string
lose
for
this
nothing,
one.
yeah.
They're like, God, screw it. We're just gonna make sure we lose this one.
I mean, and that's the thing too, Cody, is like you give him more experience. You know,
Yeah.
Give him a chance. a
Even
real
if
chance.
he fails,
Yeah.
even if he fails miserably,
Yeah.
give him a chance and let him do it. And here's the thing: is like we saw Willis coming into this NFL that we have here. We saw that he's going to need at least 2 years of development, at least. Like he needs to develop. He has all the natural abilities in the world, but when it comes to the processing, the IQ on the field, that's what needs to be further developed. They do that, I think they're going to be okay. He's going to be pretty good. But until that happens, that's where it's going to be. It's going to be a longer process.
Yeah, we got another comment coming in from Paul Matty. Said the Bucks should get Zeke for a whole $1.
Yes.
Oh, they're not on the list of 3 though.
Yeah, he's not. They didn't make
They
the
could
list.
be.
They didn't make the list. They don't have Tom Brady there, so he's not going to be there. So who knows? But again, is he going to be one of those guys that's going to be like, whatever, I'll settle for this then just to keep playing?
It's going to happen.
Don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
It's eventually going to happen.
I think what's funny, too, if you look at this free agency, I think this season, too, I still see a lot of decent talent out there, too, that can be at least somebody can look towards before the season starts. Like, say, hey, after cuts are made, after this is all gone down the draft, who can we add in here that's still hanging here that's a veteran that could still just contribute a little bit to this team? I think there's some of these veteran guys out
There's
there
a lot, yeah.
that's going to be there, but I think they're still going to be there at that point. I don't think they're going to get picked up before the draft in some of these ones. So I think that's going to be an interesting factor to see with some of these guys and where they go and where they get picked up.
Yeah, I could see maybe a team like the Giants, if they can't get, let's say, like an interior lineman that they want, if they want an actual center, not Ben Bredesen going forward, maybe we'll hit up a veteran. I think Ben Jones is still out there. Rodney Hudson, he's still out there. So you got quality veterans you can bring in if you want to be like, hey, Jones, you're our guy. We're going to protect you as best possible. We're not going to throw Ben Bredesen and maybe train another guard to play center and have that be the guy snapping you the ball all season.
We've done that before.
Because that won't go well. We've been there, done that. Please don't do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something to look forward to this offseason. Joe, again, we were talking about it, Cody and I, the draft will be coming before we know it. But this season, again, we do this right before the season starts, before the draft starts. You know that it takes that 3-year window to develop that quarterback and that, or that player, things like positions. Yeah. We're going to take a look at the 2020 first-round draft and see how some of these guys, if they're hits and misses, and there's a star-studded, type of guys in here, and it's going to be up and down. The 2020 draft, make sure you guys sit tight for that in the next coming weeks, but we're excited to talk about it. There's a lot more stuff that's going to go on in this offseason. We appreciate you guys chilling with us here tonight. Make sure if you haven't yet, make sure you like the video. First of all, like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell too as well. Let us know that you're out there, and also comment too. Not only just hit the subscribe, the like, the notification, but also comment on the videos too as well. And like always, after the live shows, we will be posting them the next day after to the YouTube. Make sure you guys can go back and check the videos and watch them again. And more to come this season. Season 6, Joe. It's exciting.
We're
and
here.
A full season with Cody. We added him at the tail end of last season. But now we're gonna have a full season with Cody. So that means him involved in the picks too as well. It's gonna get crazy, and I'm excited.
Definitely. And also, anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Make sure you follow us. Bring us along throughout your daily, and you can listen to our lovely golden voices every single day.
All right, that's it for us. We'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.